Hello, we are starting a new section here. Every week I will introduce a coin from my non-collection, which I think may be interesting to discuss in a shorter video like this. And this week I bring to you a very popular and interesting coin, the so-called camel drachm of Trajan. These camel drachms are provincial coins with a very distinctive Roman style. But being provincial coins, they bear inscriptions in Greek. In the obverse we have Trajan's laureate bust, facing right, like in this coin, or facing left, with several varieties but always in full military attire, that is, wearing cuirass and paludamentum, the Roman military cloak. In the reverse we have a two-humped Bactrian camel. These camel drachms have been the object of controversial attributions. In 1933, Edward Sydenham included them in his catalogue of Roman Provincial coins of Caesarea in Cappadocia, which is now southeastern Turkey. However, in his 1975 study of the Tel Kalak hoard, William Metcalfe noted that these coins never occur in Cappadocian hoards. Instead, they turn up in hoards from Syria, Palestine, and Arabia, which in this period were all a common currency area. Therefore, Metcalfe suggested that these coins were struck at Bostra, the capital of the new province of Arabia, created by Trajan in 106 AD. The camel in the reverse must be seen thus as a general reference to Arabia. However, just 2 years later, in 1977, Marcus Weber, a German scholar, objected Metcalfe's attribution and noted that these coins, although in Greek, have a distinctive Roman style. In fact, they look quite a lot like Roman denarii struck in the closing years of Trajan's reign at the very mint of Rome. Now let's look at the context in which these coins were minted. In 106 AD, probably upon the death of Rabel II, the last Nabatean king, Trajan annexed the Nabatean kingdom of Arabia Petrea, which is now roughly Jordan, and its capital, the legendary city of Petra, with her impressive buildings entirely carved in the surrounding rocks. I spent 2 full days visiting Petra back in 1995, and I can tell you it is a sight to see. But the provincial capital was transferred to Bostra in the northeast, because this annexation was Trajan's previous move for massive invasion and conquest of the nearby Iranian Parthian Empire. As Glenn Bowersock tells us in his landmark book Roman Arabia, 2 legions, 6th Ferrata, based in Syria, and 3rd Cyrenaica, based in Egypt, were moved to Arabia that year. But they were not involved in any major military action. Instead, they were employed in building infrastructure such as the impressive Via Traiana Nova, connecting Syria and Palestine with a new province. Until 111 AD, Trajan had been working almost in secret. However, this year, 111 AD, Trajan announced the annexation of the new province with a large issue of gold, silver, and bronze coins, depicting in the reverse an allegory of the new province of Arabia. By her side, we see an Arabian single-humped camel, a dromedary. And now let's look at the monetary system of the new province of Arabia. Until Trajan's annexation, the Nabatean kings of Petra minted silver coins known as selaim, singular selah, which is an Aramaic word for shekel. Now, there is a series of silver drachms also attributed by Sydenham to the mint of Caesarea in Cappadocia that show in their reverse the same allegorical depiction of Arabia. Metcalfe noted that also these coins never occur in Cappadocian hoards. Instead, they come out in Syrian, Palestinian, and Arabian hoards. Besides, probably several years before Metcalfe, August Spijkerman, who was a Franciscan friar and numismatist working in Jerusalem until his sudden death in 1973, noted that some of these drachms were struck upon Nabatean-based silver selaim, which, by the time of Rabel II, the last Nabatean king, contained only 50% silver. So he proposed, with strong material support, that these coins are also struck at an Arabian mint. However, Spijkerman was either a procrastinator or a perfectionist. And despite many reprimands from his ecclesiastical authorities, his works were not published until several years after his death. So the credit of his discoveries went to others. These base silver drachms bear Tribunitian dates corresponding to 112, 113 and 114 AD. Now, together with these coins, we have a series of larger silver coins with higher silver content. These coins have a weight equivalent to 3 drachms and were also attributed by Sydenham to the mint of Caesarea. However, they don't show up in Cappadocian hoards, but they are found mixed with provincial Syrian, Arabian and even Nabatean coins, and therefore Metcalfe correctly reattributed them also as Arabian issues. Now, in my view, the style of these coins looks also very Roman, and the lack of Tribunitian dates is also a feature from the Mint of Rome in these years. Furthermore, several of the reverses are also featured in coins from the Mint of Rome in the same period. Another factor is the die alignment, which is always at 6 o'clock, like in Roman imperial coins rather than provincial coins. In a recent study, Kevin Butcher demonstrated that these larger provincial coins, which like Syrian provincial tetradrachm of this period, are 2/3 silver, roughly 66.6%, are actually Arabian tetradrachms, with the same silver content than 4 debased Arabian drachms or selaim. But they could also circulate in Syria and, above all, in Palestine, as they were equivalent to 3 Syrian drachms. So they provided a useful link between the two currencies. Now, back to the camel drachms. These coins do not include Tribunitian dates. However, they include the title Optimus, Aristos in Greek, which, although was conferred by the Senate on Trajan early in his reign, was not added as a cognomen of this emperor, as is used in these coins, until June 114. At the same time, these coins lack the title Parthicus, which the Senate gave to Trajan in February 116. So the camel drachms of Trajan can be safely dated between June 114 and February 116. In addition, these coins are struck in better silver, better than the base silver drachms of the Arabia dromedary type, but also better than the Syrian and Arabian tetradrachms. In fact, they are 80% silver, same as the Roman imperial denarii of this time. So the camel drachm of Trajan is a denarius, a Greek denarion, rather than a proper drachm. So now the fog of mystery begins to clear up and a more accurate picture emerges. In 114, the Roman Provincial silver coinage for Arabia ended, and instead these coins, probably minted in Rome, arrived in the East. There is still a mystery to solve. Why coins intended for Arabia will feature a 2-humped camel, a Bactrian camel, a Central Asian camel, instead of a dromedary, which was a view more familiar to Arabs and a more proper mascot to the province. Bowerstock, in the important book I told you before, proposed an explanation. These coins have actually nothing to do with Arabia. They are instead advertising the future Roman conquest of Central Asia, the Parthian Empire, which was Trajan's pet project and his intended emulation of his hero Alexander the Great, who conquered the Iranian-Persian Empire. The Bactrian camel thus should not be seen as an emblem of Arabia, but as a proclamation of the impending conquest of the Parthian Empire. However, Trajan's conquest of Parthia, like strongly advertised also in contemporary Roman coins, was a failure, and the camel drachms of Trajan ended circulating in nearby Roman provinces. However, in 1996, a couple of years after Bowerstock's book appeared, Kevin Butcher offered a more trivial explanation for this reverse type. Basically, he says that, as the coins were probably minted in Rome, the engravers didn't find any dromedary to use as a model, and instead they were provided with a Bactrian camel. In fact, he says, Bactrian camels seem to have been quite frequent in the Roman Empire, as their bones have been excavated by archaeologists in such distant places such as northern France, Bulgaria, or even Italy. So, What do you think about these theories? Is that possible? Please let me know your ideas in the comment box below. But before we go, we have a further piece of information that adds more controversy to this subject. Quite recently, in 2015, in a paper in the Numismatic Chronicle, Bernhard Wojtek, an expert on Trajan's coins, and again Kevin Butcher, published one example of camel drachm found in a hoard now preserved in the Capman Numismatic Pavilion in the Eretz Israel Museum of Tel Aviv. And this new example had been overstruck on a Nabatean Selah of the first years of Rabel II's reign. So although camel drachms seem to have been struck from dies made in Rome, the theory of Roman mintage of these coins now seems to crack. Whatever the truth, I think it is indisputable that these coins are both beautiful and also a fascinating piece of history.